Mwah. I'm your cult boyfriend. I really want to highlight this film, All About My Mother, 1999, directed by Pedro Almodóvar. Those of you who regularly watch my channel know that I love a good melodrama. I am a sucker for soap operas. In All About My Mother, Almodóvar uses soap opera storytelling mechanics to complete his masterpiece. And I do believe All About My Mother is Pedro Almodóvar's finest film. It's one of the greatest films ever. I love it. Every time I revisit it, I love it even more. There's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of layers to this film, and I just want to highlight it today. I'd like to talk about a few things that I find to be the most interesting about it. I think a lot of people might have different points of view, different ideas of what the film's about. Like I said, there's a lot of layers and there's a lot of different angles to approach a film like All About My Mother. I think the film is about projection, about rehearsals and representations of motherhood, of feminine virtue and love, starting with a melodrama foundation, which is already partly contrived in essence. At its very core, soap opera storytelling mechanics are exaggerated and larger than life projections of nuance, projections of subtlety. So, amplified versions of subtlety and nuance make for over exaggerations. And that is Almodovar's foundation. His foundation is a decidedly artificial, extremely theatrical framework, which is the melodrama, which is the soap opera. So that's our foundation. And he populates this film with different sorts of women who personify not only different tropes within the soap opera, but different features of what Almodovar believed motherhood and feminine love means. And for Almodovar, it's radical. It's extremely radical. It's intense. It's full of desire. It has a queer sort of attitude to it. There are uniquely liberating qualities to all those who are women. He dedicates the film to people like Betty Davis, to all women who can act and all women who want to be mothers. Large parts of the film take place on a stage. Virtually every single scene with characters, no matter how intimate they feel, they are staged as if they've been staged. They are theatrical. They are projections of intimacy, an over exaggeration of intimacy, which makes it feel so overwhelming and beautifully cinematic. Children are the projections of their parents, not only exclusively in the simple ways of being like carbon copies of your parents, but they're also projections of your mother's desire, your mother's radical nature, your mother's sense of freedom, your mother's understanding of motherhood is the child itself. And in All About My Mother, a film where Manuela's child is hit by a car and killed, her sense of all of those things has been destroyed. And All About My Mother, the characters that she interacts with, she's able to be intimate with her radical qualities, with her more intense qualities, with her desirable qualities, with her maternal qualities, and with her liberating ones as well. I find this film to be so moving, so genuinely soul stirring. I love it, and it is that melodrama. It is the soap opera storytelling mechanics. That's where the genius of Almodovar is found because he uses soap opera storytelling mechanics to layer his films, especially, I think he does it best within All About My Mother. My three favorite Almodovar films are All About My Mother, Talk to Her, and Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. But All About My Mother is the best example of taking soap opera storytelling mechanics and to each layer of his mosaic, of his masterpiece, Almodovar incorporates some wild themes of of radicalism, of eroticism, of feminine purity, of the madness of women, of the kindness of women, of everything. Even the queerness of all women, the queerness of motherhood itself. Like All About My Mother is saying some incredibly radical things that I think are beautifully done. But it's thanks to these soap opera storytelling mechanics. It's thanks to melodrama, shameless melodrama, where Almodovar is able to put a metaphorical loudspeaker over these, I think, radical statements about what it truly means to be a mother and to want to be a mother. Maybe that's more important. It's not really about being a mother. It's all about wanting preparing to be a mother. It's all about rehearsing, the rehearsal for motherhood. And the rehearsal for motherhood is found within like the camaraderie amongst women, within the sisterhood of women, within that queer and radical sisterhood that most women can find themselves taking part within. Manuela, Huma, Agrado, and Sister Rosa are all representations of different facets of motherhood, of women in general, of actresses, right? Of performers, of the projectors of femininity. And some of these like symbolic women are more literal than others. Like Huma is a stage star. She is in the theater, and we often cut back and forth between her portrayal of Blanche within A Streetcar Named Desire, and Manuela's own personal attachment to the film, the way that her son died by trying desperately to get Huma's autograph. And like Huma herself kind of embodying the not only the traits of Blanche, who she's playing within the play within the film, A Streetcar Named Desire, but also of Betty Davis, who All About My Mother somewhat owes its namesake to being all about Eve. Just by looking at each character, you can spend quite a bit of time analyzing and dissecting what each of these women mean when it comes to the idea of projection. And of course, since this is a film that is a melodrama that uses soap opera storytelling mechanics, everything about the film is a projection. It's possibly even to say that film itself, if film had a gender, film would be a woman, because everyone who watches a film gets inspired by the film, and you become projectors of the film's themes and messages as you go on. You watch the film, and then if it moves you, you go out into your own normal life and you project the film's meanings and the film's themes and even the film's characters. Or if the film gave you something to desire, you bring that desire with you and you project it out to the rest of the world. And that film ends up being the mother of those thoughts, the mother of your actions, of your behavior at that point. Even if it is like below the surface, even if it's subconscious and you don't necessarily know it, film is film has a gender, and film is feminine, and film gives birth to all sorts of different behaviors, different philosophies, different outlooks, and we are the result of watching a tons of different films, some starring Gina Rowlands, some starring Betty Davis, some starring Penelope Cruz, and we go out there into the world, and we are the sons and daughters of the films, the media that inspired us most, and films are our mothers. All about film, all about my mother. There's so many layers to this that I probably sound like a mad, crazy person, but that's fine, man. Like, lock me up, put me in the straitjacket. I'm fine. Just take me away. I'll get over it. Agrado is another kind of literal symbol for this. She's a transgender sex worker who ends up becoming Huma's, the actress's, personal assistant. She is a projection of femininity. She's a projection of women, and she's also an actress as well. One of the best parts of the entire film is when Huma and her girlfriend got injured, and they can't put on the play of A Streetcar Named Desire. So Agrado puts on her own one-woman show about her life story, and what she what she really does is she goes through every facet of herself: the lips, the tits, the ass, the jawline reduction, and tells you how much it costs, and that uh, she's not representative of inauthenticity, because you're more authentic when you appear how you do in your dreams. And she says this from a stage. She says this through her through performance. So if it's performative in nature, and she doesn't act any differently than she does on stage, like as opposed to scenes in her normal everyday life. She is performative all of the time because she is, in a large way, performing as a woman. And she is a woman for sure, but like I think in Almodóvar's world, the symbolic value of a grotto within All About My Mother is that, just like Huma playing a woman, playing a sort of secondary mother figure for like a dead kid that she never knew, and playing Blanche on stage and being all about Eve, a grotto is also performing the role almost of the missing father, of the missing other mother, of Lola, who is also a transgender woman who is the father of Manuela's dead son Esteban. And a grotto is like even more complicated than that because she could also simply be providing a statement from Almodovar because about the beauty of performance. Because if most of his films are melodrama and most of them incorporate soap opera storytelling mechanics into them, and I love that stuff. I think I love it for the same reason Almodovar loves it. There's a beauty within performance. There's a performative beauty to all women, right? And I agree. I completely agree. And through Agrado, I think you see that most evidently because she is constantly within a performance and performing as a woman. And I think Almodovar is making a statement of like she is just as beautiful as Manuela or Penelope Cruz or Uma, um, i- because of the performance. Because performance is beautiful, and he loves feminine performances. In fact, I think he thinks it's in the nature of women to be performative, just like it's within the nature of film to be performative, which makes film feminine. There's a beauty to performance. There's a beauty to what seems contrived or artificial. In fact, Almodovar goes further than me and says there's an authenticity to it. There's a greater authenticity to that which seems inauthentic, because the performative nature of inauthenticity within women projects something that is so intimate, so mad, and so radical that it is irresistible to Almodovar's philosophical and sexual frameworks. Sister Rosa, I think, is a fascinating character. That's Penelope Cruz's character. Penelope Cruz does wonders within the films of Almodovar. This is a wonderful Spanish film, and Penelope Cruz, I think, shines brightest. And it's not just because I've had a crush on her since I was 10 years old. I'm sure it's deeper than that. Trust me. Penelope Cruz is excellent in the film. Sister Rosa is a nun who is HIV positive and pregnant. And she even brings this kind of symbolic layering to the forefront when she's like, I hope that the third Esteban will treat you well, Manuela, because, the first Esteban was Lola, the second Esteban died, and I'm carrying the third Esteban. She was also impregnated by Lola. The film is saying quite a few interesting things here, too, because if follow my analytical perspective of projections, representations, and rehearsals, because that's what I think really builds this film into the monument that it is. I think this is such an important and great film. Sister Rosa is a nun, and she leaves the convent and lives with Manuela when she understands that she is pregnant, and then later learns that she is HIV positive as well. So it's almost as if Manuela and Almodovar are saving motherhood from the Catholic Church. That is certainly a way to view it, and also from her overbearing and unkind mother. And Sister Rosa's father gets the most screen time out of anyone's father. He might be the only father, if I remember correctly, that's like actually featured within the film. Her father is an old man with dementia who doesn't remember who Sister Rosa is. I think the most heartbreaking scene of the entire film is when Sister Rosa has a car pull over, like she's on her way to give birth. I pull over and she's going into labor, but she wants to stop at the park and look at where she used to play, and she sees a dog and she calls the dog's name, and then the owner follows it over and it's this old man, and you don't know yet, but that is Penelope Cruz's, that is Sister Rosa's father, and there's these tears in Sister Rosa's eyes. Her father asks the same thing of all the women, like, how old are you and how tall are you? She answers it as if she's been rehearsed to, because she has been rehearsed. Because that's what her father, who is suffering from dementia, is constantly asking all the women. He asks that of Manuela later on. Um, so it's about rehearsal and then about projection. But through the projection, we see the true intimacy and the intensity of the emotion of the moment. Because, like I said, Sister Rosa is if that's the saddest, most fragile I've ever seen her, and it's like she wishes her father could recognize her. She wishes her father could understand the gravity of what is happening, but he doesn't. He wishes her father was she wishes that her father was more feminine, was a mother in that moment. And the projection of the rehearsal is a performance, but through the performance of Sister Rosa reciting those practiced lines of how tall she is and how old she is, you see the true intimacy in it. You see the authenticity. And Almodovar there are so many different times where he shows authenticity through performance, which actually makes it not only more genuine, but more powerful. And of course, it is completely true to the form of soap opera storytelling mechanics. But one of the really interesting things about Almodovar's use of Penelope Cruz within the film as Sister Rosa is that she is still portrayed as virginal. Even when she's talking about, like, I love the word prick, I love the word cock. Like, she's always portrayed as virginal. So in Almodovar's world, I mean, like, a nun sleeping with a transgender woman, getting pregnant and getting HIV as well, that doesn't like, that doesn't make her any less virginal, any less saintly. And there's something about there's something similar to the Virgin Mary even within Sister Rosa's characterization because she does feel pure, and I think that comes from Penelope Cruz's natural visual power, right? Her natural talents, but Almodovar knows those natural talents, and he is amplifying them. He's projecting them. He's making them larger. Almost a statement on the psychic reality of religious symbolism within film. And Sister Rosa also becomes a representation of like a daughter Manuela never had, or of a sister that Manuela ever had. And then the film gets to make several statements about sisterhood through Manuela and Rosa. I think Rosa's an extraordinary character and very sensitive. And I love Penelope Cruz. She's great. Always. She's always great. And then Manuela herself, played by Cecilia Roth, a wonderfully complex performance that I love. I've always adored her performance. The empathy is outrageous. It's an incredible role. It's an incredible performance. And Almodovar's camera always has personality to it, and sometimes it plays into the soap opera tropes of the entire piece, and films things a bit like television, which I appreciate because I'm a huge admirer of the art of television. Then other times it's as if it's an audience member and it's impatient, or even the camera itself is in disbelief and does a double take, right? There's so much there's so much visual poetry to the films of Almodovar, but I do feel that within All About My Mother, that's where he completely knocks it out of the park. He's going for the gold in this film, right? And he won. He's so good here. He's going for the gold, and he's an all-star. He's a master. This film is enough to prove that Almodovar is a master. It's a film of powerful performances and wonderful rehearsals and references, cinematic references, theatrical references, literary ones as well. It's an incredibly self-referential film. I love it to death. There's so much power within here, and you get a really beautiful idea of how Almodovar viewed, respected, and adored mothers who sometimes don't have any children, mothers who can't have children, any woman who wants to be a mother, any actress he loves, because being an actress and being a mother are the same thing within Almodovar's pretty honestly postmodern universe, where a film to me, like, this is all my theory. I don't think Almodovar has ever said anything like this. This is my take that films are women. If film had a gender, if cinema had a gender, cinema would be a woman. And everyone who watches the film, like I said earlier, takes the film with them and has the DNA of the film within them, and they start to project it themselves. They start to rehearse, like in a psychic sort of way, or in a soap opera sort of format. They rehearse scenes from it in their head and make their lives cinematic on account of actually performing that. And the performance makes it authentic because what's cinematic is powerful, and power is true authenticity. Within cinema, power has to be true authenticity. It can't be nuance, it can't be subtlety. It has to be power because power translates best within cinema. Women translate best within cinema. And I think that's what All About My Mother is truly about. Women translating best through cinema because cinema is female. I think that his films are radical, and you have to analyze them in a radical way that makes you like um you have to be surprised by what you say when you watch an Almodovar film. The correct way to analyze an Almodovar film should really shock the reviewer. The reviewer has to be shocked because of what the film compels him to say. Compels them to say, like that has to. The only way to analyze Almodovar correctly is to be as radical as you possibly can when you react to it. I love this film. I love it so much. Thank you for allowing me to highlight it today. Thank you for watching the video. I love this movie. It's fucking perfect. It's great.